I'm standing in my childhood kitchen on a Saturday morning, coffee mug warm between my palms, when I hear the knock at the door. It's firm, official, exactly what I've been waiting for. My mother is still in her bathrobe, hair wrapped in a silk scarf, reading glasses perched on her nose as she scrolls through her phone at the breakfast table. She frowns at the sound. "Who could that be at this hour?" she mutters, already annoyed, already preparing to be inconvenienced by whoever has dared to interrupt her morning. I take a sip of my coffee. I don't answer. I already know who it is. She pushes back from the table with that long-suffering sigh she's perfected over the years, the one that says everything is such a burden, everyone demands so much of her, and shuffles toward the front door. I stay where I am, leaning against the counter, watching her back as she moves down the hallway. My heart is beating steady and slow. I've been imagining this moment for weeks. Now that it's here, I feel almost calm. She opens the door. I can't see the front step from where I'm standing, but I can hear everything. "Good morning, ma'am. Are you Patricia Lawson?" "Yes." Her voice is wary, confused. "I'm Deputy Harris with the County Sheriff's Office. I have a document to serve you." There's a pause. I imagine her face, the way her eyebrows pull together when she's trying to decide if she should be offended or concerned. Then the rustle of paper changing hands. "What is this?" she asks, but she's already opening the envelope. I hear the tier of paper the unfold. And then silence. I count to 5 in my head before I hear her inhale, sharp and fast like she's been slapped. What is this?" The deputy's voice is patient, professional. "It's a notice to vacate the premises, ma'am. The details are outlined in the document. If you have questions, you'll want to contact the attorney listed at the bottom." "This is a mistake," she says, and now her voice is rising, shaking. "This is my house. I've lived here for 30 years. "Ma'am, I'm just serving the document. You'll need to address any disputes with the court or the property owner. Have a good day." I hear the door close. Footsteps coming back down the hall, faster now, harder. She appears in the kitchen doorway clutching the papers in both hands, and her face is white except for 2 bright red spots high on her cheeks. "What is this?" she hisses. I set my coffee mug down on the counter, very gently, very deliberately. I meet her eyes. "That's your eviction notice," I say. "You have 30 days. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. She looks down at the paper, then back at me, and I can see her brain working, trying to find the angle, the spin, the way to make this make sense in the reality where she's in control, and I'm the one who needs her. But she can't, because the paper in her hands is real. The sheriff was real, and the name listed as property owner, my name, is real too. "You can't," she starts, but I shake my head. "I can. I did. The house is mine, Mom. It's been mine for 4 years. You just didn't tell me." She stares at me like I've grown a second head, like I'm speaking a language she's never heard before. And maybe I am. Maybe this is the first time in my entire life I've looked her in the eye and said no. She told me I could fall in line or be homeless. She had no idea I already owned the house. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. This story doesn't start here, in this kitchen, with a sheriff's deputy and an eviction notice. It starts 5 years ago, when I thought I had nowhere else to go. When I thought the roof over my head was a gift I didn't deserve, and the woman standing in front of me was my only option. Let me tell you how wrong I was. Let me tell you how I got here. 1 month earlier, I was sitting in this same kitchen, at this same table, trying to be invisible. That's a skill I've perfected over the years, taking up as little space as possible, making no noise, having no needs. I work from home, so most days I stay in my bedroom with my laptop and my headphones and the door closed. I come out for coffee in the morning, something quick for lunch, maybe dinner if I can't avoid it. I do my own dishes. I keep my things contained. I've learned that the less I exist in the common spaces, the fewer opportunities there are for criticism. But that night, I made a mistake. I was tired. It had been a long week, back-to-back project deadlines, a difficult client, too many Zoom calls. I came downstairs around 7 to make dinner and she was already in the kitchen, washing lettuce at the sink, her back to me. "Hey, Mom," I said, heading for the fridge. She didn't turn around. "There's leftover chicken if you want it." "Thanks, I was actually going to make pasta." "Suit yourself." I pulled out ingredients, set a pot of water to boil. We moved around each other in silence. It wasn't comfortable, it was never comfortable, but it was familiar. I'd learned not to expect warmth. I was stirring the sauce when I made my second mistake. I spoke. "So, I've been thinking," I said, keeping my voice light, casual. "I might start looking for my own place. My lease was always supposed to be temporary, and I've been saving up, so I think I'm ready." "Your lease?" She turned to look at me, and there was something sharp in her eyes. "You don't have a lease." I blinked. "I mean, I know it's not formal. I just meant the arrangement. I've been paying rent for 5 years, so I figured." "Paying rent?" She laughed, and it was not a kind sound. "Is that what you call it? You give me $800 a month. Do you have any idea what it actually costs to run a house? Property taxes alone are more than that. You live here practically for free." My face got hot. "I also buy most of the groceries, and I pay for the internet and the lawn service and—" "Oh, here we go." She set down the lettuce, crossed her arms. "Let me guess. You're going to list all the ways you're such a contributor, such a help. You want a medal for buying groceries." "No, I'm not trying to be ungrateful. I'm just saying I think I'm ready to get my own apartment." Her face changed. It went cold, hard, in a way that still makes my stomach drop even though I've seen it 1,000 times. "With what money?" she said quietly. "You can barely take care of yourself. You've been living in your childhood bedroom for 5 years because you couldn't make it on your own. You think you're suddenly going to be fine out there." "Mom, I have a good job. I've been saving." "Saving?" She shook her head and her mouth twisted like the word tasted bad. "You've been asterisk saving. Everything you have is because I've sacrificed for you, because I gave you a place to live when you had nothing. Do you understand that? You had nothing. No job, no money, no plan. You came crawling back here and I took you in." I felt something crack open in my chest. "I didn't come crawling. You offered, you said." "I say a lot of things." She stepped closer, and I could smell her perfume, floral and cloying. "Here's what I'm saying now. You live under my roof, you follow my rules. I'm tired of your attitude. I'm tired of you acting like you're doing me a favor by being here. If you don't like it, leave." I stared at her. "Are you serious?" "Completely." Her voice was flat. "You want to be independent? Fine, be independent. Pack your things and go, tonight." My hands were shaking. "You're kicking me out." "I'm giving you a choice. You can stay here and be grateful and stop complaining. Or you can leave and see how far you get on your own. But you don't get to stay here and disrespect me." I opened my mouth, closed it. My brain was spinning, trying to find the right words, the ones that would de-escalate, that would fix this. But all I could think was, I pay rent. I pay rent and she's acting like I'm a freeloader. I buy the groceries and she's acting like I'm ungrateful. And underneath that, quieter, more dangerous, where would I even go? She saw the panic in my face. I watched her register it, and I watched something like satisfaction flicker in her eyes. "That's what I thought," she said. She turned back to the sink. "Dinner's at 7:30, set the table." I stood there for another 5 seconds, the pasta water boiling over behind me, my whole body hot with shame and anger, and something I didn't have a name for yet. Then I turned off the stove. I walked upstairs. I closed my bedroom door and sat on the edge of my bed and tried to breathe. "You can stay here, or you can be homeless." That's what she was saying. That was the choice. And for the first time in 5 years, maybe for the first time in my life, I let myself ask the question I'd been too afraid to ask. Who actually owns this house? I need to go back further. I need to tell you about my dad. He died 12 years ago when I was 17. Heart attack. Sudden, no warning. He was 49 years old. I remember the day in fractured pieces, my mom screaming on the phone in the kitchen, the neighbors coming over, someone driving me to the hospital, but it was already too late. The fluorescent lights in the waiting room, the doctor with kind eyes and tired hands telling us there was nothing they could do. I remember thinking, this isn't real. This is a mistake. He was fine this morning. He had been fine. He'd made me pancakes before school. He'd asked about my chemistry test. He'd told me he was proud of me. And then he was gone. My dad was a quiet man. Not cold, never cold, just steady. Calm. He worked in insurance, wore a tie every day, mowed the lawn on Saturdays. He's the one who taught me to ride a bike, running behind me with his hand on the seat until I found my balance and he let go. He's the one who helped me with math homework at the kitchen table, patient and careful, never making me feel stupid when I didn't understand. He's the one who told me I was smart, capable, that I could do anything I set my mind to. My mother was different. She was louder, more volatile. She had opinions about everything, what I wore, who I talked to, how I spent my time. My dad was the buffer. When she got worked up, he'd put a hand on her shoulder and say, "Patricia, let her breathe." And she'd roll her eyes, but she'd back off. Without him, there was no buffer. The funeral was a blur. My mother performed grief like a stage play, loud, public, dramatic. She cried in a way that demanded attention. People comforted her, brought casseroles, told her how strong she was. I was numb. I couldn't cry, not in front of everyone. I felt like I was watching myself from a distance, like I was underwater. After the service, my mother pulled me aside in the church parking lot. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face blotchy. She gripped my hands hard. "It's just us now," she said. "We have to take care of each other, do you understand?" I nodded. I was 17. I didn't understand anything. "Your father worked so hard to give us this life," she continued. "This house, everything we have, we can't let him down, we have to be strong." At the time, it sounded like love, like solidarity. Now, looking back, I can hear it for what it was, a threat, a claim. It's just us now. Meaning you have no one else, meaning you need me, meaning I owned you. She wouldn't let me talk about him. Whenever I brought him up, a memory, a story, something he used to say, she'd cut me off. "It's too painful, we have to move forward." She packed up his things within a month, donated his clothes, took down his photos. It was like she was erasing him. I went away to college the next year. State school, 2 hours away, close enough that she could call constantly. And she did. Every day, sometimes twice a day. She'd ask what I was doing, who I was with, why I hadn't called her first. "I'm just worried about you," she'd say. "You're all I have left." I started to feel guilty for being away, for having friends, for enjoying my classes, for living my life. I felt like I was abandoning her. When I graduated, I got a job in the city, entry-level, but good, with benefits and room to grow. I got an apartment with a roommate. I thought I was free. But she called every day. She'd have health scares, chest pains, dizziness, mysterious symptoms that never resulted in a diagnosis. She'd cry on the phone and say she didn't want to burden me, but she was so alone. I started coming home more often, then every weekend. And then, 5 years ago, everything fell apart at once. I lost my job in a round of layoffs. My boyfriend of 2 years cheated on me with a coworker. I had a health scare, an ovarian cyst that turned out to be benign, but it required surgery, and I was terrified and alone. I called my mother from the hospital. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. She drove down that night. She held my hand. She said, "Come home just for a little while, just until you're back on your feet." It sounded like kindness. It sounded like safety. I moved back into my childhood bedroom. The walls were still lavender. My high school debate trophies were still on the shelf. It felt like going backwards, but I told myself it was temporary. "Just a few months," I said. 5 years later, I was still there. And the thing is, I kept trying to leave. I'd get stronger, save money, start looking at apartments. And every time she'd have a crisis, a fall, a scare, a sudden urgent need that only I could fill. And I'd stay. Because she was my mother. Because I owed her. Because she was alone and I was all she had, and what kind of daughter abandons her mother? That's what I told myself. That's what she told me. And I believed it. Until that night in the kitchen, when she told me I could obey or be homeless. And I finally asked the question that changed everything. Who owns this house? Because I'd been living here for 5 years. paying rent, being told I was a burden. But I'd never seen a mortgage statement, never seen a lease, never seen any paperwork at all. My mother handled everything. She'd handled everything since my dad died. And for the first time, I wondered, what exactly had she been handling? That night, after the obey or be homeless ultimatum, I lay in my childhood bed staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling when I was 12. They were faded now, barely visible, but I knew exactly where each one was. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to the look on my mother's face when she'd given me that choice. The coldness in her eyes, the certainty that I'd fold, that I'd apologize, that I'd shrink myself down even smaller to keep the peace. And the worst part was, she was right to be certain, because I didn't leave. I went upstairs and closed my door and swallowed the humiliation like I'd been doing for years. But something was different this time. This time, I pulled out my phone. I started searching. Tenant rights, eviction law, verbal lease agreements. I went down a rabbit hole of legal information websites, Reddit threads, landlord-tenant forums, and I learned something interesting. Even without a formal lease, I'd established tenancy. I'd been living here for 5 years, paying regular monthly payments, receiving mail at this address. In this state, that meant I had rights. She couldn't just kick me out. She'd need to give me written notice, 30 days minimum, 60 in some cases. She'd have to go through the courts if I refused to leave. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. She didn't have that power. The power she just wielded like a weapon, asterisk leave tonight or obey me asterisk, it was empty. It was a bluff. And if she was bluffing about that, what else was she bluffing about? I thought about the rent, $800 a month, times 12 months, times 5 years. $48,000. I'd given her $48,000 to live in this house. Where was that money going? Property taxes, she'd said, mortgage, utilities, the cost of running a house. But I also paid for the internet. I paid for the lawn service. I bought most of the groceries. I'd even paid for a new water heater last year when the old one broke. She'd said money was tight, and I'd put it on my credit card without thinking twice. I opened my banking app and scrolled back through 5 years of Venmo payments. There they were, like clockwork. $800 every month with little notes. June rent, July rent, August rent. Rent for what? If there was a mortgage, shouldn't there be paperwork? If this was a legitimate landlord-tenant situation, shouldn't I have a lease? I got out of bed. It was past midnight, and the house was quiet. My mother's bedroom door was closed, a line of darkness underneath. I stood in the hallway for a long moment, listening. Nothing. I went downstairs to the kitchen and opened my laptop at the table. First, I searched for information about rental agreements and leases. Then I pivoted to something else, something that had been nagging at me. How do you find out who owns a house? The answer came back immediately. County property records. Most of them were online now, public information. My hands were shaking as I navigated to the county assessor's website. I entered our address. The page loaded. Property owner, asterisk the Howard J. Lawson Family Trust. Established 2011. I stared at the screen. A trust, my father's name. Not my mother's name, a trust. I'd never heard of this trust. Not once in 12 years had my mother mentioned it. I took screenshots. Then I searched for more information. I found the parcel number, the property tax history, the assessed value. The taxes were being paid, automatically it looked like, from some account I couldn't see. But there was no mortgage information. No lien, nothing. If there was no mortgage, what the hell was my $800 a month paying for? I sat back in my chair, my brain racing. My mother had always handled everything after Dad died. She told me I was too young, too upset, that she'd take care of the estate and the house and all the complicated adult things. She'd told me to focus on school, on healing. I'd trusted her. And now I was looking at a public record that told me my father had put the house in a trust, and I had no idea what that meant or who controlled it, or why I'd never been told. I needed to see more. The next day, I waited until my mother left for her book club. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I went into her bedroom. I felt like a criminal. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. But I kept thinking about the way she'd looked at me the night before, the contempt, the dismissiveness, and I kept moving. She kept files in her closet, in a pair of banker's boxes on the top shelf. I pulled them down. Inside, bills, bank statements, insurance paperwork, receipts. I started sorting through them, careful to keep everything in order so she wouldn't know I'd been here. Her bank statements were eye-opening. She had $34,000 in her checking account, another $15,000 in savings. She was always pleading poverty, always talking about how tight money was, how expensive everything was, how she was barely scraping by on my father's life insurance and Social Security survivor benefits. But here was evidence of something else entirely. I kept digging. I found credit card statements showing regular charges at high-end department stores, spa days, weekend trips with her friends. I found receipt after receipt for things she'd told me we couldn't afford. And then I found something else. A folder labeled estate. Inside were documents I didn't fully understand, legal language, probate court filings, tax forms. But I took photos of everything with my phone, page after page, my hands steadier now because I was angry. At the bottom of the stack was a letter from a law office, dated 13 years ago, right after my father died. Dear Mrs. Lawson, asterisk. As we discussed, the estate has been settled according to the terms of Howard's will and the family trust he established. As trustee, you are responsible for managing the trust assets for the benefit of the primary beneficiary until the terms of the trust are fulfilled. Please refer to the attached trust documents for specific instructions regarding distribution and your fiduciary duties. We recommend you consult with a financial advisor and keep thorough records of all trust-related expenses. Please don't hesitate to contact our office if you have questions. I read it 3 times. Primary beneficiary. Distribution. Fiduciary duties. Who was the primary beneficiary? What were the terms? I searched the rest of the box, but I couldn't find the actual trust document. Either she kept it somewhere else, or she'd hidden it. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, replaced the boxes on the shelf, and went back to my room. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I called a lawyer. It took me 2 days to work up the courage. I found her online, a family law and estate attorney with good reviews, someone who specialized in trusts and probate. Her name was Jennifer Chen. Her website said she offered free consultations. I booked an appointment for the following Tuesday. I didn't tell my mother. I took a fake dentist appointment and drove across town to a small office in a professional complex. My palms were sweating when I walked in. Jennifer Chen was in her 40s, polished and professional, with kind eyes behind stylish glasses. She offered me tea. I said no, too nervous to hold a cup without spilling it. So, she said, settling into the chair across from me, you mentioned on the phone that you have questions about a family trust. I nodded. My father died 12 years ago. I was 17. My mother told me she handled the estate and I never asked questions. But recently I found out the house is in a trust, my father's trust, and I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it means or who controls it or anything. She made notes on a legal pad. Do you have any documentation? A copy of the trust, the will, probate records? I have photos. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the pictures I'd taken from my mother's closet. I found these. I don't really understand them. She took my phone and scrolled through, her expression neutral and professional. Then she paused. Do you mind if I send a few of these to my email? I'd like to look at them more closely. Sure, yes, please. She handed my phone back. Let me do some research. The trust document should be on file with the county if it went through probate. Give me a few days to pull records and I'll call you when I have more information. Okay, I hesitated. Can I ask, is it normal for someone not to tell their kid about a trust? Her expression shifted, became more guarded. It depends on the situation. Sometimes parents act as trustees until a child reaches a certain age. But you're 29 now, so… She didn't finish the sentence. Let me look into it. I left feeling even more unsettled than when I'd arrived. 3 days later, she called me back. Can you come in tomorrow? She asked. I have the trust documents and I think we should talk in person. I barely slept that night. The next afternoon, I was back in her office. This time, there was a file folder on her desk. Jennifer didn't waste time. I pulled the probate records and located the trust document. I've reviewed everything, and I need to ask you something first. Did you know you're the primary beneficiary of your father's estate? My stomach dropped. What? Your father established this trust a year before he died. He placed the house and a significant portion of his assets into it. According to the terms, your mother was named as trustee, meaning she was responsible for managing the assets, but only until you turned 25. At that point, full ownership of the house and control of the remaining trust funds were supposed to transfer to you. I couldn't breathe. I'm 29. I know. So I've owned the house for 4 years. According to the trust terms, yes. Your mother was supposed to execute the transfer when you turned 25. She should have filed a deed transfer with the county and provided you with documentation and access to the trust accounts. The room tilted. She didn't. No, she didn't. The property is still listed under the trust name with her as trustee, which means… She paused, choosing her words carefully. Which means she may be in breach of her fiduciary duty. She's been charging me rent, I said. My voice sounded far away. $800 a month for 5 years. Jennifer's face hardened. Rent to live in a house you legally own. I didn't know. I understand, but she did. She opened the folder, pulled out a document. This is a letter from the estate attorney to your mother, dated 12 years ago. It explicitly outlines her responsibilities as trustee, including the requirement to inform you of the trust terms when you turned 18 and to transfer assets when you turned 25. She was sent multiple reminders. She slid the paper across the desk. I read it. The words swam in front of my eyes. Please ensure that the beneficiary is informed of the trust terms and her rights asterisk. Failure to execute the transfer in a timely manner may constitute a breach of fiduciary duty asterisk. She knew, I whispered. Yes. She's been lying to me for over a decade. Yes. I looked up. What do I do? Jennifer leaned forward. You have several options. First, you can demand that she immediately execute the trust terms and transfer the property to you. Second, if she's been misusing trust funds and charging you rent certainly qualifies, you can sue her for breach of fiduciary duty and recover those funds. Third, if she refuses to leave the property once it's transferred to you, you can evict her. Evict her. I said it out loud, testing the words. She'd be living in your house without your permission. That's the definition of a holdover occupant. You'd have every legal right. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat on the desk. How much? I had to stop, swallow. The trust, how much money is in it? Jennifer consulted her notes. Based on the probate filing and the initial trust funding, your father placed approximately $250,000 in life insurance proceeds into the trust, in addition to the house. That was 12 years ago. The trust was supposed to be managed conservatively for your benefit, college expenses, living expenses if needed, medical costs. Your mother, as trustee, was allowed to use funds for your care, but she was required to keep records and act in your best interest. I paid for college myself, I said. Scholarships and student loans, she never offered to help. Jennifer made a note. We'll need to subpoena the trust account records to see how the funds have been used, but if she hasn't been using them for your benefit. They've just been sitting there for 12 years. Possibly, or she's been using them for herself, which would be illegal. She looked at me directly. I know this is a lot to process, but I need to be clear. Your mother has been lying to you and possibly stealing from you for over a decade. You have legal recourse. The question is, what do you want to do about it? I sat there in that office, in a leather chair that wasn't quite comfortable, with sunlight slanting through the blinds and the hum of traffic outside, and I felt something inside me shift. All my life, I'd been afraid of my mother, afraid of her anger, her disappointment, her rejection. All my life, I'd made myself smaller to keep her happy. And the whole time, whole time asterisk, she'd been stealing from me. She'd been living off my father's money he'd set aside for me while telling me I was worthless and helpless and lucky to have her. She'd weaponized my own home against me. I thought about the way she'd looked at me 3 nights ago. You can obey or you can leave. I met Jennifer's eyes. I want the house, I said. I want her out, and I want every cent she stole from me. Jennifer smiled. It was a small, satisfied smile. Then let's get to work. Over the next 2 weeks, Jennifer and I worked methodically. She filed a petition with the probate court to compel my mother to provide a full accounting of the trust funds. She subpoenaed bank records. She prepared the deed transfer that should have been filed 4 years ago. And she drafted an eviction notice. Technically, she explained, once the property is transferred to you, your mother becomes a tenant without a lease. In this state, you can terminate a month-to-month tenancy with 30 days written notice. Since she's not paying rent and has no formal agreement, you have grounds to evict. How long does the whole process take? I asked. If she contests it, it could take months. But if she leaves voluntarily once she's served, it could be as quick as 30 days. And if she doesn't leave? Then the sheriff comes back and removes her. I thought about that. The sheriff, official, public, irreversible. I want to do it, I said. Jennifer nodded. Before we serve her, there's something you should know. I got the trust account records. Your father's $250,000 life insurance payout? It's grown to just over $290,000. It's been sitting in a conservative investment account for 12 years. Your mother barely touched it. I blinked. She didn't steal it. Not exactly. She was supposed to use it for your benefit, education, housing, medical care. She didn't. She let it sit while you took out student loans and paid your own way. That's a different kind of theft. It's neglect of her fiduciary duty. You were entitled to that support. I felt dizzy, nearly $300,000 just sitting there. While I'd worked 3 jobs in college, while I'd gone into debt, while I'd moved back home because I thought I couldn't afford to live on my own. Can I access it now? Once the trust is executed and transferred to you, yes, it's yours, all of it. I sat with that information for a long moment. Then I made a decision. I want witnesses when she's served, I said. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Witnesses. My brother, he's always taken her side. He thinks I'm too sensitive, that I make things up. I want him to see this. I want him to see the paperwork. When does he usually visit? Saturday mornings. She does this whole breakfast thing, pancakes, bacon, the devoted mother routine. He comes over every other week. Jennifer checked her calendar. We can schedule the sheriff to serve the notice this Saturday, 10 a.m. Perfect. I should tell you about my brother. His name is Tyler. He's 26, 3 years younger than me, and he's always been the golden child. I don't think he tries to be. He's not malicious, just oblivious. He's good-looking, charming, athletic. Things come easy to him. They always have. When we were kids, my mother praised everything he did. He'd bring home a C and she'd say, "That's okay, honey, you tried your best." I'd bring home an A- and she'd ask why it wasn't an A. When he wanted to play travel hockey, she found the money. When I wanted to go on the school trip to Washington, D.C., she said we couldn't afford it. When he graduated high school, she bought him a car. When I graduated, she gave me a card. He doesn't see it. When I've tried to talk to him about the way she treats me versus him, he gets defensive. Mom's not that bad. You're just too sensitive. Maybe if you didn't take everything so personally, you'd get along better. He doesn't live at home. He has his own apartment across town, paid for partly by our mother, though he doesn't know I know that. He has a girlfriend, a decent job in sales, a life. He thinks I'm pathetic for still living in my childhood bedroom. 2 weeks before the sheriff was scheduled to arrive, Tyler came over for one of the Saturday breakfasts. I was civil but quiet, sitting at the table with my coffee while my mother cooked and Tyler scrolled through his phone. "Smells good, Mom," he said without looking up. "Blueberry pancakes, your favorite." She slid a plate in front of him, piled high. Then she put a plate in front of me, 2 pancakes, no bacon. I didn't comment. Tyler finally looked up, glanced at me. "So when are you finally moving out? You're almost 30, still in your childhood bedroom. Kind of sad, don't you think?" My mother laughed, actually laughed. I looked at him over the rim of my coffee mug. "Soon," I said, "very soon." He didn't hear the edge in my voice, but my mother did. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp and suspicious. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. I shrugged, "Just that I'm looking at options." "What options?" Her voice was tight now. "Apartments, other places to live." She set down her spatula hard on the counter. "We've been through this. You can't afford it." Tyler looked between us, sensing tension but not understanding it. "I mean, I could help you look if you want," he offered. "My buddy's a real estate agent." "She's not going anywhere," my mother cut him off. "She's just having one of her fantasies." I met her eyes. "We'll see." After Tyler left, she cornered me in the hallway. "What are you planning?" she demanded. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't play games with me. What did you mean? We'll see." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the face I'd known my whole life, and I felt nothing. No fear, no guilt, just cold, clear resolve. I meant exactly what I said. "I'm looking at my options." "You have no options. You're broke, "I'm going upstairs," I said, and I walked past her and she didn't stop me. That week, I started packing. Not obviously, not in a way she'd notice, but I went through my room and sorted everything into 3 categories: things I needed, things I wanted, things I could leave behind. The things I needed: important documents, my laptop, my expensive camera, my grandmother's jewelry. I moved to my car, a few items at a time. The things I wanted: books, photo albums, clothes. I packed into boxes and labeled them storage, as if I was just cleaning out my closet. The things I could leave behind: high school yearbooks, old stuffed animals, posters. I left on the shelves. My mother didn't notice. She never came into my room anymore. She had no idea what I owned or what mattered to me. I also found a new apartment. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor of a converted Victorian, hardwood floors and big windows. I could afford it easily, not just on my salary, but especially once I had access to the trust fund. I put down a deposit. I scheduled movers for 2 weeks out. And I watched my mother. I watched her perform. That's what it was, a performance. The devoted single mother, the struggling widow, the woman who sacrificed everything for her ungrateful children. She told her book club friends about how hard it was to have an adult daughter still living at home. I love her, of course, but she's so dependent. I don't know what she'd do without me. She told the neighbor that I was going through something, and she was trying to be patient. She told Tyler I was being difficult again. And in private, she was cold, dismissive. She'd make little comments about my weight, my job, my lack of a social life. Little cuts designed to keep me small. But I wasn't small anymore. I'd spent 1 session with a therapist that week, telling her everything. The lawyer, the trust, the plan. "Do you feel guilty?" the therapist asked. "Yes," I admitted. "Why?" "Because she's my mother, because she'll be humiliated, because I'm supposed to honor her." The therapist leaned forward. "She's been lying to you and stealing from you for 12 years. She's been emotionally abusing you for longer than that. You're not dishonoring her. You're protecting yourself." "It feels cruel." "Cruelty would be revenge. This is justice. There's a difference." I held on to that. Justice, not revenge. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to free myself. The night before the sheriff was scheduled to arrive, I lay in bed and wrote a letter I'd never send. "Dear Dad*, I wish you were here. I wish I could ask you what you were thinking when you set up the trust. Did you know Mom would do this? Is that why you put it in writing, made it legal, made sure I'd get the house eventually? I'm sorry it took me so long to figure it out. I'm sorry I let her convince me I was helpless. But I'm going to fix it now. I'm going to honor what you wanted for me. You wanted me to be safe, to have a foundation. She tried to steal that. But she can't, because you wrote it down, you made it real. Thank you. I miss you. I didn't cry. I'd cried enough over the years. Now, I just needed to finish this. Saturday morning came. I woke up at 7, even though I'd barely slept. I showered, dressed carefully, jeans, a soft sweater, nothing fancy but nothing that looked weak. Armor in the form of normal clothes. Downstairs, my mother was already in the kitchen. She was in a good mood, humming to herself as she pulled out the griddle. Tyler's coming at 9:30, she said without looking at me. Set the table for 3. Okay. I made coffee. My hands were steady. She didn't notice. She was too busy staging her perfect morning. The pancakes, the bacon, the performance of maternal devotion she'd put on for my brother. At 9:28, Tyler's car pulled into the driveway. He came in through the front door, called out, "Hey," in that easy, cheerful way of his. In the kitchen, my mother sang back. He dropped his keys on the hall table and came into the kitchen, gave Mom a hug, nodded at me. "Hey." "Hey." We sat down. Mom served pancakes, a huge stack for Tyler, a moderate stack for herself, 2 for me. She poured orange juice past the syrup, smiled. "So," she said to Tyler, "tell me about work. How's the new territory?" He launched into a story. I half listened. I was tracking time. 9:47. 9:53. 9:58. At 10:02 the knock came. Firm, official, exactly what I'd been waiting for. My mother frowned. Who could that be at this hour? Tyler shrugged, mouthful of pancake. I took a sip of my coffee and said nothing. She pushed back from the table with that martyred sigh, already annoyed, and walked toward the front door. I heard her open it. I heard the deputy's voice. "Good morning, ma'am. Are you Patricia Lawson?" I heard her wary, "Yes." I heard the rustle of the envelope. I set down my coffee mug very carefully. Tyler looked at me, curious. "What's going on?" "Just wait," I said quietly. And then we heard her gasp. And then we heard her coming back down the hall, footsteps fast and hard, and she appeared in the kitchen doorway holding the papers, her face white except for 2 spots of bright red on her cheeks. She looked right at me. "What is this?" I met her eyes. I was very calm. "That's your eviction notice," I said. "You have 30 days. Silence that followed was so complete I could hear the kitchen clock ticking on the wall. Tyler's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He looked at our mother, then at me, then back at the papers in her hands. "Wait, what?" he said. My mother didn't answer him. She was staring at me like I'd grown a second head, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Her hands were shaking. "What is this?" she said again, her voice rising. I stayed seated, took another sip of coffee, set the mug down gently. "It's an eviction notice," I said. 30 days to vacate the property." "You can't evict me." Her voice was trembling now, somewhere between rage and disbelief. "This is MY house. I've lived here for 30 years. You can't." "It's not your house, Mom." I kept my voice level, calm. "It's mine." Tyler set down his fork. "Okay, what the hell is going on?" I turned to face him. Dad left the house to me. He put it in a trust when I was 16. Mom was supposed to manage it until I turned 25, then transfer ownership to me. I turned 25 4 years ago. She never told me. His face went blank with confusion. "What?" "She's lying," my mother spat. "She doesn't know what she's talking about. Your father left everything to me to take care of both of you." "No, he didn't." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder where I'd saved all the documents. "I have the trust paperwork. I have the probate records. I have the letters from the estate attorney telling you exactly what your responsibilities were as trustee. I held up the phone so Tyler could see the screen. He leaned forward, squinting at the document. The Howard J. Lawson Family Trust, I read aloud. Established 2011. Primary beneficiary, me. Trustee. Mom. Terms of distribution. Full ownership of the property to transfer to the beneficiary upon her 25th birthday. That's, my mother's voice cracked. That's taken out of context. You don't understand how trusts work. I was protecting you. Protecting me from what? I stood up now, and I felt something hot and sharp rising in my chest. From knowing I owned a house, from having financial security, from being independent. You weren't ready. She was getting louder, more desperate. You were 25, you barely had a job, you didn't know how to manage property. I'm 29 now. She stopped. I've been 29 for 3 months, I continued. I was 28 for a year before that, 27, 26. When exactly was I going to be ready, Mom? Tyler was looking at her now, really looking, and I could see the gears turning in his head. Mom, he said slowly, is this true? Does she actually own the house? My mother's face twisted. It's more complicated than that. It's not complicated, I said. I have the deed transfer right here. It should have been filed with the county 4 years ago. It wasn't. My lawyer filed it last week. As of 3 days ago, I am the legal owner of this property, which means Mom is living here without my permission, which means I have every legal right to ask her to leave. Your lawyer, my mother's voice went shrill. You went to a lawyer behind my back. You've been lying to me for 12 years. I think that counts as behind my back. Tyler held up a hand. Okay, wait, back up. Mom, did you know about this trust? She opened her mouth, closed it. I watched her trying to calculate which lie would work, which story would get her out of this. But there were too many witnesses now, too much documentation. The deputy had served the papers. Tyler was looking at the documents on my phone. The truth was already out. I was going to tell her, she said finally, and her voice had shifted into something softer, wounded. I was just waiting for the right time. She was going through so much, the job loss, the breakup, the health problems. I didn't want to overwhelm her with financial responsibilities. You've been charging me rent, I said. She froze. $800 a month, I continued. For 5 years, to live in a house I legally owned. Tyler's head swiveled toward her. You've been charging her rent. She needed to learn responsibility. There's no mortgage, Mom. I pulled up another document on my phone. The house was paid off before Dad died. Every dollar I gave you went straight into your pocket. The color drained from my mother's face. That's not. I used that money for household expenses, for property taxes. Property taxes are $3,200 a year, I said. I gave you $9,600 a year for 5 years. That's $48,000. Where's the other $32,000? She had no answer. Tyler was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. Mom, what the fuck? Don't you dare speak to me that way, she snapped, pivoting to him. I am your mother. I raised both of you. I sacrificed everything after your father died. You got $250,000 in life insurance, I said. The kitchen went silent again. Tyler's voice was very quiet. What? Dad's life insurance paid out $250,000. It went into the trust. It was supposed to be used for my benefit, college, living expenses, whatever I needed. Mom was trustee. She was supposed to manage it for me. I pulled up the bank statement on my phone, turned it toward my brother. It's been sitting in an investment account for 12 years. She never touched it, never told me about it. It's worth $290,000 now. Tyler looked at the screen, looked at our mother. She had student loans, he said. She worked 3 jobs in college. I know. You had a fucking $250,000, and you let her go into debt. She had scholarships. My mother's voice was rising to a shout now. She was fine, she didn't need. I lived on ramen and worked overnight shifts at a gas station. I was shouting too now, all the calm gone, all the restraint shattered. I got bronchitis twice because I couldn't afford to heat my apartment. I came home after graduation because I had medical debt and no savings, and I thought I had nowhere else to go. You came home because you're weak, she screamed. You've always been weak. You can't handle the real world, you never could, and your father knew it. That's why he put me in charge. He put you in charge until I turned 25. My hands were shaking. He trusted you to do right by me, and you didn't. You stole from me. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing. The words ripped out of me. You gave me a childhood of criticism and a lifetime of guilt. You made me believe I was incompetent and helpless and lucky you tolerated me. And the whole time, you were living off money my father left for me, in a house my father left for me, while telling me I owed you. She was breathing hard, her face splotchy and red. How dare you, after everything I've done? I kept a roof over your head. It wasn't my roof. The shout echoed in the kitchen. My mother flinched. I took a breath, another, got myself back under control. It was my roof, I said again, quieter. My house, my money, my inheritance. You were supposed to take care of it until I was ready. Instead, you used it to control me. You weaponized my own home against me. She stared at me, and for the first time I could remember, she had no response. Tyler broke the silence. Mom, his voice was hard. Is she right? My mother turned to him and I saw her shift tactics. Her face crumpled, her eyes filled with tears. I can't believe you're both turning on me, she said, voice breaking. I'm your mother, I've sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you treat me. She pressed a hand to her chest. I can't breathe, this stress, you're going to give me a heart attack. I'd seen this performance 100 times. If you're having a medical emergency, I said flatly, I'll call 911. She looked at me, saw that I meant it, and her expression flickered, just for a second, into something cold and hateful. Fine, she hissed. She threw the eviction notice onto the table. Fine, you want me out. I'll leave right now, today, I don't need this. You have 30 days, I said. I'm not throwing you out on the street. You can stay for the next month, pack your things, find a place. But in 30 days, if you're still here, the sheriff comes back and removes you. I'll leave today, she was shouting again. I won't stay another minute in a house where I'm not wanted. That's your choice. She grabbed her purse from the counter, her phone, her keys. She was crying now, loud, theatrical sobs. I can't believe this, my own daughter, after everything. She looked at Tyler. Are you coming? He was still sitting at the table, staring at the eviction notice. He looked up at her, and his face was hard. No, he said. Tyler, did you know, he asked, when she turned 25, did you know you were supposed to give her the house? She didn't answer. Mom, did you know? It's complicated. It's a yes or no question. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin. Yes, I knew, but I also knew she wasn't ready. I made the decision a mother makes. I protected her. You stole from her, Tyler said quietly. My mother's face went white, then red. Then she turned and walked out. We heard the front door open, heard her car start in the driveway, heard her pull away too fast, tires squealing slightly on the asphalt. And then it was just me and Tyler in the kitchen, the pancakes going cold on the table, the morning sunlight slanting through the window. He looked at me. I'm sorry, he said. I sat down, suddenly exhausted. For what? For not believing you. You tried to tell me over the years that she was the way she is. I thought you were exaggerating. I thought you were too sensitive. She treated us differently. I know, I see that now. He rubbed his face with both hands. Jesus, she really did that. She really just lied to you for 12 years. Yeah. And I believed her when she said you were the problem. I didn't say anything. I'm really sorry, he said again. I looked at him, my baby brother, who'd always had it easier, who'd never had to fight for scraps of approval, who was looking at me now like he was seeing me for the first time. I don't need you to apologize for her, I said. I just need you not to lie for her, going forward. Whatever she tells people, whatever story she spins, I need you to tell the truth." He nodded. "I will, I promise." We sat there for another minute in silence. "So you actually own this house," he said finally. "Yeah." "And you're kicking her out?" "Yeah." "Good," he said. "She deserves it." My mother didn't come back that day, or the next. She sent a flurry of text messages, alternating between rage and self-pity, threats and guilt trips. I didn't respond. On Jennifer's advice, I saved every message, but I didn't engage. On day 3, she sent a message asking if she could come get her things. I said yes, and gave her a 2-hour window. I made sure I was there with Tyler as a witness. She barely spoke to me, just loaded boxes into her car with tight, angry movements. She was staying with her friend Carol, she said, just temporarily, just until she found a place. She had the money, I knew that. I'd seen her bank statements. Within a week, she'd rented a condo across town. Nice building, 2 bedrooms, granite countertops. She could afford it. She'd always been able to afford it. She just preferred to live in my house and make me pay her for the privilege. Over the next month, I watched her carefully stage her narrative on social media. Vague posts about family challenges and difficult decisions. Photos of her new condo with captions about new beginnings and choosing peace. She was playing the victim publicly, but she didn't explicitly trash me. I think she knew that if she pushed too hard, I'd release the documentation. And she didn't want that. Some of her friends reached out to me with concerned messages. "Your mom seems really upset. Is everything okay?" I kept my responses brief. "We're working through some family estate issues. I'm sure it'll settle down." But my father's sister, my Aunt Caroline, called me directly. "I heard what happened," she said. "From Tyler, is it true?" "Yeah." She was quiet for a moment. I always wondered. After Howard died, Patricia wouldn't let any of us help with the estate. She said she had it handled, that we just upset you by bringing it up. We thought she was protecting you. She was protecting herself. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Your dad would be heartbroken." "I know. But he'd also be proud of you, for standing up for yourself." That made me cry, just a little. Caroline became an ally. She told other family members the truth, not in a gossipy way, just in a matter-of-fact way. Patricia was trustee of Howard's estate and didn't execute the terms. The house was always meant for the kids. The family grapevine did the rest. Tyler called me a few days after the confrontation. "Hey," he said, "I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing." "I'm okay. I've been thinking about everything, about how she treated you, how I didn't see it." "Tyler, you don't have to." "No, I do. I got the easy version of her. The good moods, the generosity, the pride. You got the criticism and the control. And I told myself that wasn't real, that you were imagining it, because it was easier than admitting our mom is. He trailed off. "Abusive," I finished quietly. "You can say it." "Yeah, that." We talked for over an hour. He told me about things he'd noticed over the years but dismissed. Times she'd put me down in front of him and he'd laughed along. Times she'd asked him not to tell me things, how much money she was giving him, help she was providing. "She kept us separate on purpose," he said. "She gave me stuff and told me not to tell you. She told me you were jealous and unstable. I believed her. She's good at it." "I'm not taking money from her anymore," he said. "Just so you know, I told her yesterday. She freaked out, said I was abandoning her. I told her I'm 26 and I should have been paying my own rent years ago." I felt something warm and painful in my chest. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did." After that, Tyler and I started having lunch every couple of weeks, rebuilding something. It wasn't perfect. There was too much history, too much to unpack, but it was real in a way it had never been before. I started reclaiming the house. I changed the locks first. Jennifer had advised it, and it felt symbolic. My mother no longer had keys to my home. Then I started redecorating. I'd been living in my childhood bedroom for 5 years, surrounded by lavender walls and high school memories. Now I made it mine. I painted the walls a soft gray. I bought new furniture. I hung art I actually liked. I went through the rest of the house, room by room. My mother had dominated every space, her style, her photos, her choices. I boxed up her things carefully, stored them in the garage, and told her she could pick them up whenever she wanted. Then I made the house mine. I painted the living room. I rearranged furniture. I planted flowers in the front garden, something my dad used to do, something my mother had let die. I had dinner parties with friends who'd never been allowed over when my mother lived there. I walked through the rooms in the evening, lights on, music playing, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Jennifer helped me get access to the trust fund. It took a few weeks of paperwork, but eventually, the $290,000 was transferred into an account in my name. I sat in the bank parking lot after signing the final documents and just stared at the balance on my phone. $290,000. Money my father had left me, money that had been mine for 12 years. I paid off my student loans first, $31,000 gone in a single payment. Then I set up a real emergency fund. I invested the rest conservatively, following the advice of a financial planner. For the first time in my adult life, I felt secure. Not because of the money, exactly, but because I finally understood. I had never been as helpless as she'd told me I was. I had always had resources. I had always had options. She'd just hidden them from me. 6 months later, I was sitting in my living room, in my house, on a Saturday morning with a cup of tea and a book. The room was quiet. Sunlight was streaming through the windows I'd cleaned. The walls were painted a warm cream color. There was a new couch I'd picked out myself, covered in soft throw pillows. I wasn't listening for footsteps, wasn't bracing for criticism, wasn't making myself smaller. I was just here. My mother and I had no contact. She'd tried reaching out a few times through mutual acquaintances, testing the waters for reconciliation. Each time, I'd sent back the same message: I'm not ready. The truth was, I didn't know if I'd ever be ready. A therapist I'd been seeing weekly told me that was okay. You don't owe her forgiveness, she'd said. You don't owe her a relationship. You owe yourself peace. And I had peace now. Hard-won, fragile but real. Tyler came over sometimes. We were building something new, not the sibling relationship we'd had as kids, but something more honest. I'd even started dating. Nothing serious yet, but I'd gone on a few dates with a woman I'd met at a professional networking event. She was smart and kind and made me laugh. When I told her about the house, about what had happened with my mother, she'd said, "Good for you. That took guts." I was learning what it felt like to be seen. Really seen. Not as a burden or a disappointment or a supporting character in someone else's story. Just as myself. I thought about my dad sometimes, wondered what he'd think of all this. I liked to believe he'd be proud, that he'd see I'd finally claimed what he'd tried to give me: security, a foundation, a place that was mine. My mother had tried to steal that, but she couldn't, because he'd written it down, made it legal, made it real. The truth had been there all along, in documents and filings and public records. I just needed to look. There are things I wish I'd known earlier. I wish I'd asked questions about the estate when I was 18, when I was 21, when I turned 25. I wish I'd trusted my instincts instead of swallowing my doubts. But I also know this. I found out when I was ready to find out, when I was strong enough to act on it. And I did act. I stood up for myself. I used the systems that existed, the law, the courts, the paperwork, to reclaim what was mine. That's what I want you to know. If you're listening to this and you're in a situation where someone's holding power over you, where someone's using housing or money or family obligation as a weapon, you have more power than you think. Here's what I learned. First, ask questions about your inheritance, your legal rights, your family's financial situation. If a parent or relative says, "I'll handle it," or "You don't need to worry about that," get a second opinion. Look up public records. They're called public for a reason. Second, document everything. Every payment, every promise, every threat. I had 5 years of Venmo receipts showing I'd paid rent. That mattered. Screenshots matter. Emails matter. Text messages matter. If it's not written down, it's harder to prove. Third, family is not an excuse for abuse. I spent years telling myself that I had to accept my mother's treatment because she was my mother. That honoring her meant accepting whatever she did. I was wrong. You can honor the role without accepting the abuse. You can set boundaries with family. You can say no to family. You're allowed. Fourth, protecting yourself is not cruelty. I felt guilty for months about evicting my mother. A part of me still does. But I didn't make her homeless. She had money and options. I just stopped letting her live in my house while she abused me. That's not revenge. That's justice. That's self-preservation. And finally, you are allowed to walk away. You're allowed to cut contact, to build a new life, to choose peace over reconciliation. You don't owe anyone access to you, not even your parents, especially not if they've hurt you. I know some of you are living in situations right now where someone's holding the roof over your head like a weapon, where someone's telling you you're too weak, too incompetent, too broken to make it on your own. I want you to know, they're lying. You're stronger than they've told you. You have more options than they've shown you. Check the public records. Talk to a lawyer. Many offer free consultations. Look at your bank accounts. Know what you own. Know what you're entitled to. And if you discover you've been lied to, if you find out someone's been stealing from you or manipulating you or hiding your own resources from you, believe yourself, not them. Trust the documents, trust the law, trust the paper trail, and then use it. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's not. Standing up to family is one of the hardest things I've ever done. There were nights I couldn't sleep, days I second-guessed everything, moments I almost backed down. But I didn't. And now I'm sitting in my own house, drinking my own tea, living my own life. And I've never been freer. So that's my story. That's how I went from a woman being threatened with homelessness to a woman serving her mother with eviction papers at breakfast. I'd love to know, where are you listening from? Have you ever had to stand up to a parent or family member who tried to control you? Have you ever discovered a lie that changed everything? Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every one. And if this resonated with you, if it helped you feel a little less alone, or gave you a little bit of courage, or just reminded you that you're not crazy for seeing what you see, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories about boundaries and justice and taking your power back. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. You're not stuck. You're not helpless. You're not too weak or too broken or too damaged to stand up for yourself. You're just getting ready. And when you're ready, the tools are there. The law is there. The truth is there. You just have to reach for it. Thank you for listening. And remember, you deserve peace. You deserve safety. You deserve a home that's actually yours. Don't let anyone tell you different.